In the distant future, Earth has made its first steps into the galactic stage. The Galactic Empire, a vast and ancient federation of hundreds of species, watches humanity with a mixture of amusement and disdain. To the Empire, humans are just another species from an insignificant planet, far from their prime, and even farther from understanding the complex and delicate balance of intergalactic politics. The Empire's leadership, a coalition of the most powerful alien species, has long adhered to an ideology of absolute dominance. The more advanced civilizations within the Empire see themselves as the rightful rulers of the galaxy, convinced that lesser species should either serve them or be erased. Humans, though ambitious and resourceful, are seen as primitive by the Empire's standards. While Earth has a proud history of survival and innovation, its recent attempts to join the Galactic Order have been met with derision. The Galactic Empire operates under the belief that diplomacy is reserved for only the most sophisticated and obedient species, ones that have earned their place through millennia of technological and cultural advancements. Despite Earth's technological progress, the Empire views humans as violent, emotional, and dangerously unpredictable. Their aggressive colonial past only serves to confirm the Empire's fears. Ambassador Lydia Carter, humanity's most skilled diplomat, has long known the odds stacked against her. She is well aware of the disdain the Empire holds for Earth, but she believes that through diplomacy, she can secure humanity's place within the Empire. The human race needs allies, protections against the countless threats lurking in the void. For years, Earth has navigated the treacherous politics of the galaxy with humility, always striving for peace, always reaching for cooperation. Lydia, driven by a deep sense of duty and optimism, has been chosen to represent humanity in its most important moment. Her mission is clear: negotiate Earth's integration into the galactic community. Lydia's speeches are filled with hope for mutual cooperation, the shared benefit of peaceful trade, and the promise that humanity can add something valuable to the Empire. But she knows it won't be easy. The Empire is not interested in alliances, it is interested in subjugation. Human history is a testament to their resilience, but the Empire's rulers see that resilience as a threat. Lydia has no illusions about the challenge ahead. She understands that this could be a one-shot opportunity, a single chance to prove that Earth can contribute to the Empire without being a liability. She enters the high-stakes negotiation with careful precision, prepared for the worst. But Lydia believes in something fundamental. She believes in humanity's capacity to adapt, evolve, and learn. She sees something in humanity's future that the Empire does not. While the Empire's elites believe they are the pinnacle of evolution, Lydia has spent her life studying the history of her species, and she knows better. Humans are survivors. They are more than their imperfections, their flaws, and their violent past. Earth's strengths, its creativity, its adaptability, and its sheer determination, make humanity a force to be reckoned with, one the Empire cannot ignore. The Galactic Empire's leaders, however, do not view Lydia's negotiation as a sign of strength. They see it as a foolish human gambit, an effort to worm their way into the Empire's inner circles. The Empire has long been built on the backs of subjugated species. It is an empire that thrives on inequality, on the belief that only the strongest, the most advanced, should hold power. It has no interest in equal partnerships. Lydia's mission, no matter how carefully crafted, is viewed as an insult, a challenge to the established order. To the Empire, there is no room for weaklings in the fold. This underlying hostility soon becomes apparent during the tense talks. Lydia quickly realizes that her diplomatic skills, her eloquent words, and her calm demeanor are not enough to overcome the deep-seated prejudices of the Empire's leadership. The talks begin to falter. The Empire's diplomats dismiss her arguments outright, decrying Earth's history of violence and colonialism. They mock the idea that Earth could ever offer anything of value to the galaxy. Her idealistic views, her hopes for cooperation, are regarded as naive. But Lydia does not back down. She presses on, determined to present Earth's case with dignity and respect. Her resolve is unshaken. She points to humanity's remarkable achievements, its advancements in science, its rapid technological growth, its growing understanding of the universe. But it is clear the Empire is not interested in the facts. To them, the human race is a relic, unworthy of a seat at the table. The negotiations become increasingly hostile, the language sharper, the tone more dismissive. Lydia's calls for peace, for a mutual understanding, are ignored. The Empire does not wish for peace, it wants dominance. And in this moment, the galaxy's biggest power reveals its true face. The negotiation was never about mutual respect, it was always a test. A test to see whether humanity could be intimidated into submission. The Empire was never going to offer Earth a place in their ranks. Instead, they were using the talks to test the limits of human submission, to prove once and for all that humans could never be more than an insignificant pawn in the grand game of galactic politics. At the climax of the talks, the Emperor himself, a cruel and calculating figure, makes his decision. Lydia is told in no uncertain terms that Earth's efforts have failed. There is no place for humanity in the Galactic Empire. The Emperor delivers a harsh ultimatum: Earth will submit to the Empire's will, or face destruction. Lydia, a woman who has spent her life in service of peace, is given no time to react. Her mission, her life's work, has been reduced to nothing. She has been defeated, her vision of a better future shattered in an instant. The Empire, rather than seeing humanity as a potential ally, views Lydia's defiance as an affront to their superiority. In a brutal display of power, the Emperor orders Lydia's execution as a public spectacle. The punishment for humanity's audacity will be swift, brutal, and unmistakable. Lydia Carter, the human diplomat, will be burned alive in front of the galaxy as a warning. The message is clear: the Empire will not be challenged. And those who dare to challenge its might will be erased. Lydia's final moments are broadcast across the galaxy, intended to demonstrate the fate of any who would dare stand up to the Empire. The execution is a grotesque display of cruelty, designed to instill fear and maintain control. But to the human race, it becomes something far more powerful, a rallying cry. The death of Lydia Carter ignites a fury in humanity's heart, a fury that the Empire has underestimated. The execution will not break humanity's spirit, it will only serve to fuel the fire of rebellion that will one day challenge the Empire itself. And thus, the beginning of the never-ending war is set into motion. Ambassador Lydia Carter's mission was clear: secure Earth's place within the Galactic Empire, negotiate a peaceful integration, and ensure humanity's survival among the stars. As the first human diplomat to represent Earth, her arrival at the imperial capital was met with skepticism, but also a glimmer of hope among Earth's leaders. Humanity had made significant advancements in technology, diplomacy, and military prowess, but still lacked the power to stand against the full might of the Empire. The diplomats were carefully chosen, and Lydia, a woman of exceptional intellect and resolve, was sent with one goal: to show the galaxy that Earth was not to be underestimated. Lydia knew the risks. The Galactic Empire was not a collection of friendly neighbors but a collection of powerful, often tyrannical races that valued strength above all. Even in their most public forums, there was an air of condescension toward humanity. As Lydia walked into the vast, cold halls of the Empire's council chambers, she felt the weight of her role. Every word she spoke could either bring humanity closer to a place of respect or mark them as a threat to be eliminated. The negotiations began under a tense atmosphere, filled with diplomatic niceties and the barely concealed hostility of the alien representatives. Lydia maintained composure, presenting humanity's case with clarity and diplomacy, stressing their desire for peaceful coexistence. The human race had a history of resilience, creativity, and adaptability, qualities that were beginning to garner the attention of certain factions within the Empire. However, many of the more entrenched imperial factions were not interested in peace. They saw humans as unworthy and primitive, a species that had no place on the galactic stage. Despite Lydia's best efforts, the Imperial Senate turned increasingly hostile toward her presence. When the representatives of the Azari, an ancient race known for their arrogance and cruelty, took offense at one of Lydia's statements, it became clear that the negotiations were unraveling. The Azari were particularly contemptuous of humans, believing that their species had no place among the stars. A sudden shift in the tone of the debate made it clear: they were no longer interested in diplomacy. In a shocking move, the Imperial Emperor, a towering figure of indeterminate species whose name had long been a symbol of absolute power, declared that Lydia's diplomatic mission had failed. The council chamber fell silent, and the Emperor's voice echoed through the vast room. He accused Lydia of insulting the Empire, of daring to suggest that humans were worthy of equal treatment. The Emperor's ruling was swift and brutal. Lydia was to be executed for her transgressions against the Empire, publicly burned alive as an example to all those who dared challenge the superiority of the Galactic Empire. The decision was made in an instant, without the chance for Lydia to defend herself. The gravity of the situation hit her like a tidal wave. She had known the risks, but she never imagined the Empire would take such extreme measures. The very idea of executing a diplomat in such a brutal, public manner was an act of unprovoked savagery that would forever stain the Empire's reputation. But to them, it was a necessary demonstration of their dominance, a stark reminder that the lesser races could never challenge the will of the Empire. As Lydia was led to her execution, she remained calm, her mind racing with thoughts of Earth, of her people, and of the future she had hoped to secure for them. She knew that her death would not be in vain. The humans watching, the people of Earth, would understand the injustice, and they would respond in kind. The Empire had made a fatal mistake, one that they would not live to regret. There was a fire in Lydia's heart, a belief that her people would rise, would fight back against this act of senseless brutality. Her execution was not just an isolated tragedy, it was the spark that would ignite the fires of war. What the Empire failed to comprehend was the incredible resilience of humanity. They had misjudged Lydia Carter, and by extension, they had misjudged every human in the galaxy. Earth would not bow to the Empire. The death of their ambassador would be the rallying cry for a planet united in a singular purpose: vengeance. Lydia had shown them the strength of human spirit, the courage to fight for survival, and in her death, she would become the symbol of an unyielding resistance. In the coming days, Earth's governments, military leaders, and citizens began to rally together in ways never seen before. The loss of Lydia Carter, the brutal execution of their representative, fueled a collective determination that no empire, no matter how powerful, could suppress. Humanity had always been defined by their perseverance, their ability to adapt, to overcome the impossible. The Emperor's decision would prove to be the ultimate miscalculation. It would not be the end of humanity. It would be the beginning of their greatest war. What the Empire had failed to understand was that Lydia's death was more than just a tragedy. It was a declaration of war. Earth would now stop at nothing to avenge the insult, to show the galaxy that they were a force to be reckoned with. The Galactic Empire had just made its greatest mistake, and it was one that would lead to the downfall of everything they believed to be invincible. What the Empire did not yet know, and what would soon become apparent, was that humanity's thirst for justice would be unquenchable, and their will to fight would never break. The fight had just begun. Lydia's first few meetings with the Imperial High Command were tense, to say the least. The representatives of the Empire, a collection of various species, each more powerful and advanced than humanity, greeted her with cold indifference. She quickly realized that diplomacy in this galaxy wasn't about forming mutual respect but about bending to the will of the most powerful factions. Humans were viewed as a curiosity, a species with potential but little value in the grand scheme of the Empire. Earth's request for full membership in the galactic community was considered laughable by many, while others saw it as an opportunity to exploit humanity's resources for their own gains. The tone of the meetings was always the same. Earth had little to offer beyond its location in the galaxy, and any alliance with humanity would be a concession on the part of the Empire. Lydia's carefully crafted arguments, backed by Earth's growing technological advancements, were met with either derision or cold, bureaucratic responses. The Empire wasn't interested in treaties, it was interested in control. But Lydia, ever the strategist, held her ground. She knew that if she could secure even a tentative agreement, it would pave the way for Earth's future. It wasn't long before the nature of the Empire's cruelty began to show. During a routine negotiation session, Lydia found herself in the middle of a twisted display of power. The Empire had invited her to an assembly where, unbeknownst to her, the galactic leaders had planned an execution. At first, Lydia had assumed this was merely some strange form of ritual or formal punishment, something to reinforce the Empire's iron grip on its subjects. It was anything but ceremonial. The chosen victim, a dissenting diplomat from a conquered planet, was dragged into the chamber by armored guards. His crime? Speaking against the Empire's rule. Lydia watched in shock as the victim was tied to a post, his body writhing as an energy weapon burned through his skin. The members of the Galactic Council, both alien and human, observed the spectacle with cold detachment. To them, this was just business as usual, a reminder that defiance would not be tolerated. What Lydia couldn't understand, though, was why they had invited her to witness this. She felt the weight of the moment, the realization that, to the Empire, human lives meant nothing. They were expendable. If she failed in her mission, she would be just another pawn to be discarded, another human to be burned away like the diplomat before her. It was then that the true danger of the Empire became clear. This wasn't just about politics. It was about survival. And the Empire was not in the habit of making concessions. Lydia had no choice but to continue. Every moment, every meeting pushed her further into a corner. But she held firm. If she could secure even a minor agreement, if she could prevent Earth from becoming a footnote in the Empire's history, then it would all be worth it. She began to push harder, fighting for every inch of progress, but the more she pushed, the more the Empire responded with cruelty. They were testing her, pushing her boundaries, seeing how far they could go before she would break. They were sending a message, one that Lydia would soon understand all too well. Days later, the worst happened. Lydia was summoned to a private meeting with the Empire's highest officials. She walked into the room, unaware of the trap waiting for her. The moment she stepped inside, the doors slammed shut behind her. The room was empty except for the high-ranking officers who had been leading the negotiations. The silence was suffocating. One of them, a tall, reptilian creature with glowing red eyes, turned to her with a sneer. "Ambassador Carter, we've been very patient with you," he said, his voice cold as ice. "You have overestimated your species' value." Before Lydia could respond, the air seemed to crackle with an unseen tension. The Emperor, or at least the figurehead of the Empire's rule, spoke. His words were chilling. "We've been watching you, Ambassador. Watching your every move. Your persistence, your determination, it's admirable. But it is also a flaw. You are too weak to understand the nature of this galaxy. And now, it is time for humanity to learn its place." Without warning, the lights in the room dimmed, and Lydia felt a sharp pain as she was dragged forward by unseen forces. Her body was lifted into the air, and she struggled against the restraints that held her firm. The Empire had decided, her fate had been sealed. The next moment, she was subjected to an unimaginable horror. In a brutal, public execution meant to send a clear message to Earth, Lydia was burned alive. The flames seared through her body, and the pain was excruciating. But it was more than physical agony. It was a symbolic act, one that shattered any illusion of humanity's standing in the galaxy. The Empire wanted Earth to know that it was powerless. That its leaders, its diplomats, and its citizens had no place in this galaxy beyond what the Empire allowed. As Lydia's body was consumed by the flames, the Empire's leaders watched on, expressions of indifference etched on their alien faces. They saw it as a necessary act, a means of maintaining control. And they believed that with her death, Earth would cower, submitting to the will of the Empire. What they didn't understand, though, was the spark they had ignited. Lydia's sacrifice was not one of defeat, it was the catalyst for something far greater. Back on Earth, her death would not be seen as a loss. It would be seen as a rallying cry. The humans who had watched her execution across the galaxy, on their screens, on their news feeds, saw something more than the death of their ambassador. They saw the truth of the Empire's cruelty. They saw that Earth, a planet they had once hoped could be part of the greater galactic order, had been cast aside as nothing more than a tool for the Empire's amusement. In that moment, humanity changed. The anger, the grief, and the thirst for justice were not soon forgotten. And as Earth steeled itself for the war to come, one thing became clear: the Galactic Empire had underestimated the strength of the human spirit. The war that followed would not be one of quick victories or decisive battles. It would be endless, relentless, and fought not just in the stars, but in the hearts and minds of every human alive. The Empire had set the galaxy on a path toward conflict, one that humanity would never back down from. And this war, unlike any before it, would be fought for the survival and dignity of a species that had been pushed too far. Lydia's efforts to secure Earth's place within the Galactic Empire reached a breaking point during the most critical negotiation of her career. After weeks of failed discussions and subtle slights, she was finally summoned to the Imperial Senate to present a final plea. This was her last chance to secure any meaningful treaty for Earth. The entire fate of humanity now rested on her ability to sway the high-ranking officials who had already decided that Earth had no place among them. However, Lydia was not the type to back down. She had spent her entire life preparing for this moment, and she believed that her cause was just. The Senate chamber, a grandiose structure made of black stone and luminous metals, was filled with the Empire's most powerful and influential beings. The air was thick with the sense of superiority emanating from the alien representatives, each more intimidating than the last. Lydia, standing alone in the center, faced them all. The grand spectacle was designed to put her in her place, but she would not be cowed. She spoke with unwavering conviction, detailing Earth's achievements, its potential, and its desire for peace. She spoke of humanity's resilience, their ability to survive against all odds, and their desire to be part of something greater. But her words were not received with the reverence she expected. Instead, they were met with a sharp and biting response. One of the Empire's highest-ranking officials, a towering creature with scales that glimmered like the stars, interrupted her speech. He mocked her words, claiming that humanity's survival instinct was nothing more than a primitive trait, one that had no place in the Empire's future. He pointed out that Earth's technological advancements were still primitive compared to the rest of the galaxy, and that humanity would be a liability, not an asset. The other officials murmured in agreement. The verdict had been decided. Earth's plea was rejected. It was in that moment of crushing rejection that the true nature of the Empire was revealed. Lydia, knowing her fate, made one final desperate plea, one that would cost her everything. She appealed not just to their logic, but to their pride, urging them to reconsider, warning that underestimating humanity could be a catastrophic mistake. But the Empire did not respond to such warnings with reason. They responded with cruelty. The official who had mocked Lydia's speech ordered her execution on the spot, and his word was law. A display of such public brutality was meant to send a clear message to humanity, and to any species that dared to challenge the Empire's superiority. Lydia was burned alive in the heart of the Senate, her screams echoing through the chamber as the flames consumed her. The act was broadcast across the galaxy, a spectacle of terror meant to remind every civilization that resistance, no matter how small, would be crushed mercilessly. What the Empire failed to anticipate, however, was the profound impact this moment would have on Earth. As Lydia's death was broadcast, humanity did not cower in fear. They did not submit to the Empire's will. Instead, the brutal murder of their ambassador ignited something within the human spirit, a burning fury, a collective resolve that would not be extinguished. Earth, once a vulnerable species among the stars, now found itself united by a single purpose: revenge. The people of Earth, their anger seething and their hearts full of vengeance, rallied together. Governments, scientists, and military leaders set aside their differences and began working towards a singular goal: preparing for war. Humanity's desire for peace had been shattered, replaced by a thirst for retribution that would not be quenched until the Galactic Empire paid for Lydia's death. The first wave of human retaliation came swiftly. Earth's technological advancements, though primitive in comparison to the Empire, were now focused on one thing: war. Humanity's ingenuity, born from centuries of survival against overwhelming odds, was unleashed in a way the Empire had never anticipated. The war that followed would not be quick, nor would it be easy, but it would be relentless. The Empire, for all its arrogance, had underestimated the power of a species driven by loss, and driven by the indomitable will to survive. The Galactic Empire had burned the wrong diplomat alive. They had underestimated the one thing no alien race could fully comprehend: the sheer, unyielding force of humanity's will when it was pushed to the brink. This was not the end of humanity's struggle. This was just the beginning. What followed would be a war unlike any the galaxy had seen before, a never-ending conflict fueled by the burning desire for justice, and a relentless hunger for revenge. The Galactic Empire had made a grave mistake, and humanity would make sure they paid the price.